Let's talk about the unsung heroes of India's economy. I'm talking about micro, small, and medium enterprises, or what we all call MSMEs. Now, these aren't just your corner shops. They are the absolute powerhouse driving the nation's growth. So we're going to dig in and find out why they matter so much.
Let's just jump right in with a number that really puts things into perspective: 30.1%. That is the share of India's entire gross domestic product that comes directly from these enterprises. We're talking about nearly a third of the whole country's economic output, all driven by its smallest players. It's kind of staggering when you think about it.
And if you thought that was big, it gets even crazier. MSMEs provide jobs for 28 crore people. That's 280 million individuals. To put that in perspective, that's a workforce larger than the entire population of countries like Brazil or Pakistan. After agriculture, they are, hands down, the nation's biggest job creators.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the big picture. MSMEs is India's economic engine. Then we're going to zoom right into one of the country's fastest-growing states, Bihar, to see how this all works on the ground. From there, we'll uncover a really interesting growth paradox, check out the solutions being put in place, and finally, we'll tie it all back to why this is so critical for India as a whole. All right, first up, the national powerhouse. You know, to really get a handle on their impact, we need to look past the headlines and get into the hard numbers. Let's see how these millions of small businesses come together to form the very backbone of the national economy. Okay, so this chart gives us a fantastic breakdown. We already talked about their 30% share of GDP. But look at manufacturing. They produce over a third of all the goods made in India. And this is huge. They're responsible for almost half of the country's total exports. That's vital foreign money coming right back into the economy.
And this is exactly why people call MSMEs the backbone of the Indian economy. It's not just about the stats, they're the engine for innovation at the grassroots level, for creating local jobs, and for making sure that growth isn't just stuck in the big cities, but spreads to every corner of the country.
So now, let's see how this massive national engine actually plays out on the ground. We're going to zoom in from that 30,000-foot view to a specific case study, the state of Bihar. This is a region that's going through a really fast economic change, and MSMEs are right at the very heart of it. Just let this one fact sink in for a second. 95% of all industrial units in Bihar are MSMEs. I mean, that's incredible. It basically means that for Bihar, the story of industrial growth is the story of its small and medium businesses. They're one and the same.
And you know, on the surface, that story has been a pretty positive one. These charts show a really clear, steady upward trend. On the left, you've got employment from MSMEs just climbing and climbing, and on the right, you can see investment pouring into the sector, and it's really picked up steam in recent years. So everything's moving in the right direction, right? Or is it? And that little question brings us right to the core of our story, the growth paradox. Because even with all this positive momentum, Bihar's MSMEs are actually facing a serious struggle to keep up. It's revealing this massive gap between their potential and how they're actually performing.
Okay, take a look at this. That bottom line shows the steady employment growth in Bihar that we just saw. But the top line? That's a top-performing state during the exact same period. The really crucial point here isn't just that there's a gap, it's that the gap is actively getting wider. Something is holding Bihar back from closing in and hitting its full potential. So what's going on here? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is money. In 2024, credit for MSMEs in Bihar grew by just 4.2%. Now compare that to a neighboring state like Odisha, which saw a whopping 45.7% growth in credit for its MSMEs. Capital is the fuel for growth, and this shows a pretty stark difference in supply.
And you know, that lack of credit isn't just a random fluke. It's tied to a much deeper problem. This number, 23.8%, is Bihar's MSME non-performing asset rate, or NPA. That is the highest in the entire country. It means that nearly a quarter of all loans to these businesses are at risk of not being paid back. That signals some serious financial trouble, and honestly, it makes banks pretty nervous about lending more.
But this money crisis is just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. The challenges don't stop there. Bihar's MSMEs are also battling against things like inadequate infrastructure, major technology barriers, we're talking outdated machinery, and on top of all that, they're dealing with complex regulations and a real shortage of skilled workers. It's like they're fighting a battle on multiple fronts. But okay, the story doesn't end with the problems.
Let's pivot now to the solutions. This section is all about the path forward and the specific government plans designed to tackle these exact issues and finally unlock Bihar's massive potential.
And this table shows some of the concrete actions being taken. For instance, you've got the Mukhyamantri Udyami Yojana, or MMUY, which gives grants and loans to empower entrepreneurs from underrepresented groups. The newer Laghu Udyami Yojana, or BLUY, is laser-focused on providing that critical working capital. And at the same time, the Bihar Industrial Area Development Authority, BIADA, is building the actual physical infrastructure, the industrial parks and clusters that these businesses need to grow. And as you can see from the numbers, these programs are really starting to make a difference.
It's not just about support, though. There's a whole strategy to build a new culture of entrepreneurship. The Yuva framework is a four-step approach. First, create awareness. Second, simplify regulations. Third, build an ecosystem through education. And finally, provide that all-important access to funding and support. It's a whole plan to nurture the next generation of business leaders.
All right, so let's pull our focus back out again. We've seen the big national picture, and we've dived deep into one state's specific challenges and its solutions. Now it's time to connect all the dots and understand why the story of MSMEs in a place like Bihar is absolutely critical for the entire nation's future.
This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? The path to India becoming a global manufacturing leader and hitting its most ambitious economic goals, like becoming a $10 trillion economy, runs directly through its MSME sector. They're not a sideshow, they are the main event.
And this brings us to the crucial final point. The national vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, or a self-reliant India, simply can't be achieved from the top down. It has to be built from the ground up, on a foundation of strong, competitive, and thriving MSMEs in every single state. Because at the end of the day, true national strength is just the sum of all its local strengths.
So we'll leave you with this question to think about. After everything we've seen about how local potential and national ambition are so closely linked, can India really achieve its global goals if parts of its own economic engine are left running below capacity? The answer seems pretty clear, and the future really depends on getting it right. Thanks for watching.